Hello, everybody, and welcome to Horsehead Weekly, episode number 5. And we're going to get right into it with, as always, a recap of last week. Last week was the week where if you were, you know, in the top half of the group, you played someone from the top half, bottom half of the group played someone from the bottom half. So you really couldn't complain about how it was going. It was almost like we were playing Swiss. But some interesting things happened. Both Jess and James flipped the script a little bit. Jess got her first loss of the season, James's first win, so congratulations to James and condolences to Jess, which means we're not going to have anybody go over and nobody go undefeated, which is pretty cool that the highest somebody went was 3-0 and the worst was 0-3. That being said, I'm now 1-3. Started off 1-0, and took a little bit of a tumble. Um, you know, who else? Tyler, has done the opposite. Started out 0-1, now he's 3-1. So, a couple people going on some good runs, and yeah, just like a real interesting league right now. A lot of parity going on, and this is reflected in the standings, where every division is really really close, except for, of course, my division, where Doug, one of the newbies, he's kind of out in front at 3-1, and Jerry and I are just trying to play catch up. But I have a good feeling that some things might be turning our way. But hey, we'll see what happens. Uh, so now we're onto the eliminator, which is everyone's favorite part, and we have another elimination. This week, Jess has been eliminated. She started off strong with the second highest or third highest points in week one, and then proceeded to just like literally just miss, and then this last week she just didn't play that well. So tough luck on her, but she has been eliminated. This and also things going on this week. Matt S and Tyler are the two people without a strike, and Matt M and myself are the only people with 2 strikes. Everyone else only has one, which means that at the end of this week, if both Matt and myself are eliminated, then we're going to go down to 3 strikes. So it'll make it a little different. But for now, it's really interesting the way it's going to work out because we have a couple people eliminated. There's still 4 strikes, which means 40% of the people are going to get a strike. I think that's pretty cool. Something else to know, the average score every week. The average score for this last week went down a little bit, which I think is a product of just just teams regressing a little bit because last week was kind of crazy with the 125 average score. This week everyone just kind of took a step back and realized that we're not just going to throw up 150s every week, everybody. So I think that was pretty cool. So let's move on to the waiver wire. The waiver wire this week was crazy because you had Dalvin Cook, Ty Montgomery, both of them went down. Both of them were looking to be out. Dalvin Cook had an ACL injury. He's supposed to be out long term. He's not coming back this season, which made anyone who played for Minnesota a hot ticket, especially Latavius Murray, who looked pretty decent with his time with the ball. And other than that, you had people like Will Fuller coming back off of injury, Alex Collins, and Wayne Gallman. They both came out of the woodwork and were like, hey, we're on football teams and we want to play football well. So I thought that was really cool to see. Some people just kind of getting thrown out there, and because what do you have to lose with the Baltimore and New York Giants running backs? Not much. So yeah, I think there was some really cool waiver claims, and a lot of money was spent for a lot of these players. And I don't know if you noticed a theme, but a lot of this was really close. Eddie Lacy though, $14 to Matt M. Tyler the second highest with 2. Apparently not a lot of faith in Eddie Lacy going on in the league, but hey, there it is. But yeah, just a lot of really interesting people. And another interesting person to keep an eye on, Deshaun Watson, somebody who I had picked up last week but then dropped because I was like, oh, this Carson Wentz kid, I like him a lot. And I'm worried that this Watson kid's going to be a flash in the pan. He wasn't. I think he might be the real thing, and he's going to be someone that we're going to be real excited to watch in the next couple of years. And I think going deep this season too, because I think that Houston team, with him as their quarterback and that defense that they have, I think they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. I mean, they just hung up 57 points last week, so that's pretty crazy. But moving on from those musings, we have the fab remaining. Now, as I said last week, was a lot of big ticket spenders. Matt M went from, I think he had like 80 something last week. He's down to 30. Jess and Dave still kind of just hanging out. A couple other people just kind of chilling up near the top. But, now you got Matt joining Tyler and Nick in the Poor Club. And then you have Mac, Mike, Doug, and myself all just kind of hanging out around 50. So, we're like kind of the average people. And then you have Dave and Jess in the High Roller Club up there. James Gerald and Matt S. They're like the middle class. I guess they're like upper middle class. I don't know what I'm doing here. That's how much fat people have. Let's move on. A bunch of trades happened this week. Not as many as before. I mean, it seems like we're kind of slowing down a little bit. People are starting to get happy with their teams. And I just thought that most of the trades went through Nick. So let's just take a look at what happened. So last week's starting lineup versus this week, he literally just went through and was like, oh, let's just replace both my running backs and both my wide receivers. He kept his flex, but then he traded for Julio Jones, who's, I'm assuming, going to move up, and then Cooks and Baldwin, or one of them's going to be in the flex. So he basically took his top 5 players, positional players, and just got rid of them for what he has for what he has now. I mean, Nick, you won last week. You did good. I mean, yeah, you lost Dalvin Cook, but you were fine. You had Alvin Kamara. You have, you know, Pierre Garcon. Like, you could make your life work. You didn't have to just kind of run away from your team. But hey, that's what Trade Nick does. So this is just a complicated chart basically saying he traded a bunch of people away, got a bunch of other people, and this is where his team sits right now. Yeah, just keep in mind, everybody, he has Andrew Luck on his bench. And if he keeps churning away the wins, that means at 3-1 right now, and he plays me this week, and I'm pretty trash. So if he keeps churning out these wins, he can just sit there with Andrew Luck, and having Tyrod Taylor as his starting quarterback, yeah, that'll just get him through a couple weeks until he can get Luck in there. And if Luck starts putting up those 25-point games like we know he has the potential to, it's going to be insane. It's going to be crazy, and he's just going to be able to run away with this league. So now we're going to do this week's rankings. You're probably thinking, oh, but Mark, where is the fancy thing where you do like some in-depth, crazy analysis that you spend like literal 5 hours or 8 hours working on? I just been kind of busy this week, so just don't worry about it. It's cool. So some context: the points per game are down to 114, and the average strikes for those not eliminated is remaining at 1 because we added strikes and some people got eliminated and stuff. So the average strike is down to 1 now. So that's where we're sitting at. Average points per game 114, average strikes 1, and we're gonna start off with the Tybalt tier, who is the trash tier, and that's me. I have a real good wide receivers, but I mean the quote of the year for me has been, guys, no, for real though, this is the week they break out. I promise. This is the week. This is the week that they're gonna go out there. They're gonna show everyone what they got. And I've been saying that about like 5 different players, and they're all just not. Maybe they're just not good. Maybe they're just not good. Maybe I'm just have a bunch of bad players on my team. I'm just gonna, but who knows? Who knows what's gonna happen? But this is my team right now. I got Doug Martin, who looked real good last night on Thursday Night Football against New England. Or I guess 2 nights ago now. We're a little bit past midnight. Russell Wilson, he's good at football. And then I got Mixon, Rawls, McGuire, Kamara, Clement. I mean, all of these are players that people are starting to be like, oh, I mean, Corey Clement, maybe he'll be good because Smallwood's might be out for a little bit, so maybe he'll be able to come in and be really good in that role. Rawls, I mean, they just lost their lead running back. Maybe he can come out. He hasn't done much this year, but maybe that means he'll be fresh and he'll be able to come out and do great things. Elijah McGuire, they just lost Forte, and you don't want Powell doing everything. I mean, he's good, but is he that good? You might want to take some work off of him. There's that. Kamara's been doing great. He was averaging over 10 points per game, and he looks really good. Maybe we know that team has a history of hating Miller. So, you know what I just did? I literally just said to everybody, hey guys, just like, these next couple weeks, this is when these players break out. I literally just said that I'm dumb for thinking that. But I have my 2 strikes, I have my 1-3 record, and I have my abysmal points per game, only team under 100 points per game. So guess what, kids? Why even listen to my rankings? Moving on, we have Nick. Rip Cook's knee, and he missed out on Fab Day. I mean, when you look at the numbers next to his players, you got to think to yourself, wow, these are some pretty good people. They're going to be running around doing great things. Well, then you have to account for the fact that you have, like, you know, Cook is, yeah, he's technically a tight end one, but, you can stream better than him. Cooks is only the 11th best wide receiver in the NFL because 30 of his 50 points came in 1 week. Doug Baldwin only had one good week. Lamar Miller just had his one good week. Bilal Powell, over half of his points came in the last week. Like, his team isn't that good. It's just he somehow has a bunch of players that had one good week, and I'm beginning to wonder about him. Like, yeah, he has one strike, he's 3-1, he's won 20 points per game, blah blah blah. I'm just a little bit worried about his team moving forward because I think that he's starting to load up with players that are going to have issues. Your Alex Collins, yeah, I mean he could be the guy, but they also have West and Allen, and you're going to get Woodhead back eventually. I feel like he's not going to be that great. Julio's been kind of a little bit rough. He's been a little dinged up. He could easily come back though and just be like, oh, I'm just going to put up 25 points a week for the rest of the season and just screw you, Mark, for trading him away. But yeah, no, I think Nick's got a kind of a rough team. He's got a lot of players that had their one boom game and then a bunch of busts, and he's just kind of hoping that those booms keep kind of sustaining. And I don't know if that's going to happen, dude. So good luck to you. Back to Jess. Last week she was 12, and you know what? The more I look at her team, the more I just don't like it. I mean, I, it was because I was salty a little bit, but I mean, you have been eliminated. You have a low points per game. Um, I mean, when Brady's putting up almost a quarter of your points per game from that one position, yeah, it's a quarterback, so you're expecting to get a lot of points for them. But I mean, it just feels like if you take away Brady and your defense IDPs, then your team is just garbage. But I mean, that's why we have those players because they count towards the team. I'm just a little bit torn on it because I still don't like Blount. I think that he's gonna fade pretty quickly soon or get hurt. Marshawn Lynch, I think we saw the real him last week where he's putting up 10 rushing yards and a catch. That's all he's gonna really be good for. Cooper's been kind of faltering. Thielen, now that they don't have Cook to worry about, they can kind of drop back a little bit and take away his game. Stewart's not that like I don't want to trust Coleman. I don't know. I just look at your team and I'm just kind of like it's not that good. But then I look at Brady, Wagner, Campbell, Mills, and I don't know. So hey, good luck to you moving forward, Jess. You just got your first loss, and in the week you got eliminated. So I know it's been a rough week for you, but you did move up 2 ranks in the standings because I realized my team's garbage, and Nick's pretty trash because he's playing me this week. That's not why I moved him down that low. Don't worry about it. So next up we got some random Planeswalker thing. I don't really care about that. And we move on to Doug. His team is scary, and he bought low on some good players. So the question now is, can he keep this up? Now, he's got Deshaun Watson, who I love. God, I want him on my team so bad. Even though I have Russell Wilson, I don't care. Um, he's got some players that could be really good, like your Garcon, McCaffrey. Like I think they have that potential, but his team's just kind of scary. Like he can put up big points, but at the same time he could just be trash. So I don't really know what to think about him. I don't know. He's got a bit of a rough team. God, it's just really tough to evaluate. That's why I kind of put him so low. Um, I don't know, dude. Your team's just kind of got a lot of players on it, and they play football. They play well. They're gonna produce decent numbers for you week in week out. Um, and yeah, they can be spiky, but we'll see what happens. If Ty Montgomery comes out this weekend and just plays really well in a flak jacket or something, whatever they decide to do to protect his ribs, then yeah, great, good job. You're just gonna probably be killing it. But without him around, and if Watson regresses, and because people are getting a little bit of film on him now, they can kind of sit around and study him and say, oh, this is some tendencies he has, but we can exploit them, blah blah. I mean, but we'll see what you get, buddy. Next up, we have Malcolm. And as you can see from my points, he's got a really good team. It's just kind of struggling a little bit. Uh, I think some of the players are just underperforming a little bit, and that last point may be a little bit strong, but I really think his defensive players are, you know, they are going to get better. And a lot of people are like, oh, well, it's J.J. Watt and Alec Ogletree, but they also haven't been putting up the numbers, so it's a little bit rough to look at. But his whole thing this week, or this week that I realized was he's just trying to collect top wide receiver talent and just pick up random running backs that play football and can do things. And he kind of hit on that. I mean, no one was going to really look at Duke Johnson seriously except for him because he's the homer. But it's ended up paying up some really good dividends for him here. I mean, yeah, Crowell's kind of crashing and burning, but Duke's kind of taken over as the running back to own out there. So hey, good for you, man. And being somebody from the AFC North who watched a lot of AFC North games, he knew Javoris Allen was something to pay attention to, and he, went out there on the auction and got him when Woodhead went down. So great job, dude. Charles Clay again, another great pickup. So he's got a lot of very good players on his team. It's the reason he's so low is I'm a little bit wary of players on his bench because I'm just kind of looking at like Crow, Gordon, Johnson, Breda. They're just kind of met players, but then again, the waiver wire is a little bit thin, so I really wouldn't be dumping them to pick up anybody else at this moment, anyways. But yeah, so that's kind of what he's doing. I have him this low just because I really don't know if I can trust Duke Johnson and Javorius Allen to bring in points week in week out. But hey, if he can get them to do that and his defense starts playing up to their potential, I think he's going to have a hell of a team. But you can really say that about a lot of players, a lot of these teams right now. Then moving on to James, DeMarco Murray. I feel like 2004 he had his like breakout crazy good season. 2000 or 2014 did that. 2015 he was like, oh, I'm just gonna be kind of crappy over here in Philadelphia. 2016 he played really well and he was like a great running back. And then this year he's just kind of back to being meh. Feel like I realize a pattern, so I'm going to be drafting him number one overall next year. He got his first win, which is great, but just to that second point, when you look at his wide receivers, he has Devontae Adams and Chris Hogan. Yes, he has other players. He's got Pryor, Lee, and Curse, but uh, I wouldn't trust them. I can't trust them. I don't think they're that good. So he really only has two good wide receivers right now. And while that may be fine when you have Bell, Murray, Cohen, those are a set of three very good running backs. But at the same time, it's like you got Bell, who's going to put up 30 points a week or some nonsense like that. But Murray's been underperforming. Cohen is, he's one of those players who he's either going to put up like 20 or 5 week in and week out. So I don't know. It's gonna be interesting for him. Moving on to Dave apparently because I just clicked my keyboard and it's late and I don't really care because I'll try to do better next week, kids. Dave. Still needs to improve at wide receiver. Still strong at running back. I mean, real quiet this week on waivers. I didn't even see him entering that many waiver claims. Like, you really didn't care about any of the big names. I mean, he's looking for a quarterback right now. At the point of this is a little bit old. He probably has a quarterback by now, but I mean, I really do like his running back. So I think he has three really solid running backs with Freeman, Howard, and Ellington. I think Ellington is the real deal now that DJ's gone, and they're starting to realize that this is the guy we're going to go to on passing downs, and this is the guy we're going to go to, on longer situations and stuff. And in PPR, that's going to be really helpful. And I also think he's got, they had him as the number one running back for a while out in Arizona for a reason. It wasn't just they were like, oh, we'll just put some scrub out there. No, he has talent. It's just he was a little bit injury prone, and when they got DJ, they were like, oh, this is the kid, because it was when Ellington went down. So, I just, put on everybody's radar, Andre Ellington. He's going to be a good time. Martavis Bryant, great at home, so he's going to go off this week. But yeah, I really think his weakness is Martavis Bryant's only really good at home. T.Y. Hilton is kind of a big question mark. He had one good week this season, and him and Brissett, I mean, I'm not really sure they're that great together. They're not really a great match, but who really knows? And he's got like Jordan Matthews, Rashard Higgins, and Devin Funches. Now Funches went off last week, and a lot of people were saying he's going to continue doing that because I think that Cam's going to do better. But I think Cam's got a lot going on right now with yogurt brands dissing him on Twitter, so that's pretty rough. So I think he's going to have some issues, and that's going to impact Funches, and he really doesn't have any more wide receivers. I think he just has to try to wait on Bryant and Hilton. I think those two are going to work out fine for him, but I don't know. That's really his weakness and I think he could benefit a lot from taking either Breeze or Freeman, or maybe package Breeze and Freeman for like a 6-7, like a QB6 or QB7, whoever that happens to be at the moment, and like a low end number one running back and a high end number two wide receiver. Maybe some kind of package deal with that, or maybe like two running back twos, just kind of something so you can help fill out that flex and help make the rest of your team a little bit better. But hey, you've been really quiet, just kind of sitting back, letting your team work. You got decent points per game, only one strike, but your record's showing that you kind of need to start making moves, kid. So, but hey, good luck to you. You're up at sixth. Matt M. He just kind of shot his load this week. I mean, he spent over half of his fab for this season this week, and he didn't have a linebacker at the time of making this, but yeah, no, he really, if Latavius Murray and who was the other big pickup he made, Eddie Lacy, if those two end up being the guys on their teams, he's gonna have Fournette, Murray, and Lacy. Those, I mean, that's going to be scary. Like, I feel like that's going to be a threesome that you're going to want to be a part of. And then, yeah, he can use Landry and Fuller and Ertz to just kind of fill in those three spots. I mean, Ertz is the number two. I mean, Ertz is great. Sorry again. But I think Landry's going to start to have a bit of an uptick because, he's going to get those touches, and I think he's just I think as Cutler gets more into the system, he's going to get better. Or maybe Cutler will just stop caring, which I don't think Cutler's ever cared about anything, and they're going to realize they should just put in Matt Moore, work on him for the rest of the season because he played well last year. Because if they want to have a chance at making the playoffs this year, that's what they have to do. And, that's just as simple as it gets. And Will Fuller being back, I think with Deshaun Watson playing as well as he does, you got to believe in him and what he can do for this team, stretching the field and making some real burn-in plays happen. So I don't know. I think this is a really good team, and it's only at 5. And I feel like I may have made the tiers a little bit weird because I think this is the first of the teams that I'm like, man, this is a team that is like legitimately well put together already at this point this season. The only issues with it is that there are those question marks at running back because we don't know how Lacy and Latavius are going to work out. I mean, if they both miss, then this team's kind of looking a bit dumpy, but we'll see how that goes. Next up, we have Mike. He went from 11th last week, where I was like, is he that good, or is this just like a one-week thing? Nah, this garbage rocket is soaring, and I don't care if he's lucky or good anymore because it just doesn't matter because he is killing it. I mean, God, just look at this team. He's got Jameis Winston finally playing like Jameis, putting up good numbers. He didn't do that good last 2 nights ago, or Thursday night, whatever. But, I think he still put up pretty decent numbers. You got, Frank Gore going out, putting up 10 points per game. He's just going to put up 10 points every week. That's what you want. Zeke didn't get suspended yet, so he's running around doing his thing. Got Antonio Brown doing his thing. His team is just kind of going off, and it still looks a bit like garbage. I mean, you look at his team, it's still kind of, but, he was the guy who started off with 3 strikes, and he was out in the first 3 weeks. But I really do like the whole the whole storyline with this team, and I want to see it keep soaring. Even if I look at this team and I'm like, I think Matt M's team is better if you gave me these two teams instead to pick one. I don't care. I love the storyline with Mike, and I'm gonna keep moving him up the rankings until he putters out and crashes back down to earth. Um, so as I said, those last two teams probably should have been up in this class, but whatever. And we're up here with Matt S. I mean, he's got a lot of studs going on. He's been making small moves, just kind of ratchet himself up. He's avoided any strikes. He's got good points per game. Somehow 2-2, which I think just means he ran to a tougher schedule with no strikes and that high of a points per game. But hey, that's how it works sometimes. That's the breaks. But yeah, he's got Dak Prescott doing Dak things, two top 10 running backs, with probably the top running back of the year in Todd Gurley. I mean, he hasn't shown any times to slow anything that can slow him down. I mean, he's run into good defenses, and everyone was saying, "Oh, sell high, sell high." He's just a beast. Like I don't know what happened to him this offseason, but whatever juju he got into, it's working for him. Um, I think Dez is going to bounce back. He's got Kelsey. I mean, this team's just real good. I mean, what's not to like about this team? Well, now that you mention it, his flex. He's rotating through, a bunch of players that are kind of meh, but he also has Jerick McKinnon and Giovanni Bernard. And if Mixon continues to struggle and they end up saying, hey, Bernard's going to be our guy moving forward because we know Hill's garbage. We thought Mixon was the guy and he's not. And they put Bernard in. I think that could be great. McKinnon, same thing. They might play with Latavius for a week and then say, this guy's just bad. The only reason he was good last year is because of that O-line. Our O-line's not that good. Well, compared to last year's Raiders line. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, his team has that potential. It's just like one guy away, I think, from having that, just breaking out into that next level. So, well, we'll see how it goes. I mean, he's up for number 3 for a reason. This brings us to number 2, which is Gerald. God, his team, this is the last week that I'm putting Gerald this high. Yes, he's 1-3. He has 1 strike and low points per game. But if Mariota plays, I still think Mariota is a special talent. I still think he's going to be a top 8 rest of season quarterback. Ajayi, if he's healthy and that knee's not bothering him, which he doesn't have a designation on this screen at least, he's going to go out and he's going to do great things. He's going to crush it. Absolutely kill it. And I think this could be a week he puts up 215, 3 touchdowns, 1 receiving. One of those is going to be receiving, just because I want to call a shot that's never going to hit. Shady's really great. Devontae Parker, I think that offense is going to start clicking soon. Michael Crabtree, yes, you don't have Derek Carr, but I mean Crabtree is just one of those talents that he can make it happen. Cameron Brate looked pretty good last night. DeAndre Hopkins, I mean, he's absolutely killing it with Deshaun Watson. They just have that kind of chemistry that makes you just wonder why we ever doubted DeAndre Hopkins. We thought, oh, well, the quarterback play is not going to be that much better this year. Yeah, they got rid of Osweiler, blah, blah, blah. No, this kid's something special. We should have saw that. I didn't see him coming out that quick, but hey, he's out there. He's doing great things. So just looking up and down this thing, Rashad Jones, I think, is going to catch up too. But, I think he just has one of those teams going crazy. And then you look at his bench. Look at his freaking bench. He's got the backup, Shady, so, that's whatever. But he's got Cooper Kupp, Smallwood, J.J. Nelson, Kyle Rudolph, and Amir Abdullah. Come on. Like, give me a break here. Those are players that would be starting on other teams easily. Like, I would be starting Kyle Rudolph. I'd probably be starting Amir Abdullah. I might be starting Wendell Smallwood if he was healthy. J.J. Nelson, there's definitely teams out there that have a lot worse wide receivers starting in their wide receiver slots, not even in the flex. I mean, this is a team that I think has the depth and the talent through and through. If all you really need is like Ajayi, Parker, and Crabtree to just kind of ratchet it up a little bit, and I think you're there. This is one of the few teams I think can compete with Tyler moving forward, which of course brings you to Tyler, because okay, if you put C.J. Anderson in as his running back, every player on his team is in the top 12 at their position. Or if they're like quarterback or tight end, they're in the top half. Yes, Gronk did end up playing this week. He ended up sitting out because he was hurt. But still, like, my God, this is just one of those teams that's just a work of art. And like I said last week, he just made those little adjustments here, little adjustments there. Get a couple points in trade there, a couple points in the trade there, and just slowly ground out players that he really likes until he can have this team that just is crazy. Now, it doesn't come without risks. I mean, you have Sterling Shepard as your wide receiver. Yes, he's the number 12th wide receiver in the league, but he's also not. I don't think he can keep that up. I think that was just, one or two games. And I don't really see that going forward being a thing. But then again, he has Michael Thomas on bye, who you can just plug in. Melvin Gordon, I'm a little bit worried about him moving forward because of his health and nonsense. I feel like they're just gonna they used him a lot last year. They're gonna use him a lot this year. I'm just a little worried about him, the wear and tear on him. But he's got C.J. Anderson. And Brandon Oliver or Olivier, or I don't know how his name is pronounced. He's a backup, doesn't matter. Um, Gronk, yeah, he's hurt. We all knew it was a possibility, but you got Jason Witten, who is top 6. So I don't know. He just made it work. So that brings us to this week's matchups. This isn't updated with all like the new fanciness from uh, the last game that was played the other night, but it there's nothing on here besides my game with Nick that's like more than one game apart. So I think there's going to be a lot of very competitive games, a lot of very interesting games where you're going to be like, ooh, who's going to win this? Who's going to win that? And again, you're seeing teams that are like 3-1 playing 2-2, 1-3 is playing each other, 2-2 is playing a 1-3. It's a lot of games that are going to matter a lot because they're very close. There's not games that are like the only game that I think is like a little bit less mattery is me versus Nick because even if I win and he loses, he's still above 500. I'm still below 500. Big deal. Where the match between Dave and Jerry, whew, I mean, talk about stressful. If you win this one, you're still really in the hunt, but if you lose it, you're in a hole. You're 1-4. You probably need to get to 500 to make the playoffs in this league. 7-6 rather. So you really need to grind out those wins, and it's going to be really rough for them to do that right now. But this is where they got to start it. So that brings us to our game of the week, and it is Tyler versus Madass. Two of the top 4 teams in the league, I believe it was. And I think this is going to be a really high-scoring, really great game. I know that Gronk isn't playing, but God, I think this is going to be a real fun game to pay attention to, and it has a lot of implications because if you go back to this screen, you'll see that if Tyler loses this, then they're tied, and yeah, it's not like, oh my God, I can't believe they're going to be tied. They're not in the same division or anything, but or even the same conference, I don't believe. But it's just one of those things where you look at, you're like, oh man, this means a lot. I mean, Tyler getting another win means he's likely can go 3-6 the rest of the season and make the playoffs, or 3-5 for the rest of the season. Like, he's got a lot of wiggle room moving forward at 4-1. Whereas if Matt S loses, then he's behind the 8 ball moving up for the next couple weeks. So I think that's going to be a really key matchup to watch. And with that, I'm going to see you next week. Next week's probably going to be another kind of lower quality. I don't think this video was that low quality. More abridged, a little bit quicker, a little bit dirtier of a comment video because that's just the way that it's going to work out. And then the week after that is going to be back to regular stuff. I'm going to be in my new room with my new office. I'm going to be working on getting like streaming and stuff set up for it so I can start maybe, I don't know, doing these live on Twitch if you guys care about doing something like that. But yeah, so that's what's going on right now, and it's a lot of fun, and I'm glad I'm still doing these, even if it is almost 1 in the morning and I just spent the whole day doing house stuff. So Thank you everybody for watching, and I will see you all next week.